This morning I was trading the markets. 3 wins in a row. Green everywhere. And I felt it. That surge. That electricity. I told myself, I'm in the flow. I've finally got the rhythm. I can't lose. But then I caught myself. Because I wasn't in flow. I was in a trance. I wasn't conscious. I was intoxicated. And there's a razor-thin line between the two that most people never see until they've already crashed. Today, I want to show you why the moment you feel invincible is actually the moment you're most blind, why your winning streak is your greatest danger, and how to tell the difference between presence and momentum before reality humbles you. Here's what was actually happening in my brain and yours every time you're on a roll. Dopamine floods your system. But here's what they don't teach you about dopamine. It's not a reward chemical. It's a prediction chemical, a repetition engine. Dopamine's only job is to tell your brain, this pattern works. Do it again, faster, bigger, now. And when dopamine spikes, something critical happens. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that thinks, questions, assesses risk, starts to shut down. Control gets handed to your basal ganglia, your autopilot, your habit machine, the part of your brain that doesn't think, it just repeats. You think you're making decisions. You're not. You're replaying the decision that worked 5 minutes ago, in a reality that has already changed. You're not watching the market anymore. You're watching a movie of yourself winning. You've stopped responding to what is. You're projecting what was. That's not flow, that's momentum, and momentum doesn't know when to stop. But there's something even deeper happening here. Something the ancient traditions understood that neuroscience is only now confirming. True flow is a state of no self. The Taoists called it Wu Wei, effortless action. The Buddhists called it anatta, egolessness. Modern researchers call it ego dissolution. When you're truly in flow, there is no I there to feel powerful. There's just the doing. The trader becomes the chart. The musician becomes the music. The dancer becomes the dance. But the moment you think, I am invincible, you have re-entered the ego. And the ego doesn't live in reality. It lives in a simulation. As we talked about in the science of waking up, the ego creates stories to feel safe. Invincibility is one of those stories. It's a narcotic, a beautiful lie. The moment you feel invincible, you've stopped being a fellow passenger with reality. You've started trying to be the master of it. And reality has a very cold way of humbling masters. When you're in this trance, this unconscious momentum, you stop pausing. You stop questioning. You stop being awake. You're sleepwalking through a winning streak straight toward a cliff. So how do you know? How do you tell the difference between conscious flow and unconscious trance? You use the pause test. It's simple, brutal, honest. Next time you're on a roll, winning, crushing it, feeling unstoppable, stop. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. Now notice. If you're in true flow, you feel calm, centered, ready to pivot. There's no I narrating how great you are. You can stop and return without fear. The flow doesn't collapse when you step back. If you're in unconscious momentum, you feel irritated, restless, an itch to get back in. There's a voice saying, "If I stop now, I'll lose it." You can't pause without anxiety. That anxiety, that's not mastery, that's addiction. If pausing feels like death, you were never in flow. You were on a dopamine train with no brakes. And here's the thing about trains with no brakes. They always crash. This isn't just about trading. It's about that conversation where you were on a roll, being witty, charming, winning the room, and then you said something you regret because you weren't actually listening. You were high on being clever. It's about that creative project where you were crushing it, producing, until you burned out because you confused productivity with presence. It's about that relationship where everything felt so easy, until you realized you'd been projecting a fantasy onto a real person instead of seeing who they actually are. Momentum feels like flow, but momentum is mechanical. Flow is alive. Momentum says, "This worked before, so it will work again." Flow says, "What does this moment require?" One is memory pretending to be awareness. The other is awareness itself. I almost fell for it this morning. My brain wanted to keep going, to double down, to ride the invincibility. But I chose to wake up instead. I chose to realize that the me who felt powerful was just a ghost, a simulation fed by dopamine and ego. Here's the practice. Ask yourself, especially when you're winning, am I responding to what is or projecting what was? Is there an I here celebrating itself or just the doing? Can I pause right now without fear? If you can pause and return, you are in flow. If pausing feels impossible, you are in a trance. And the kindest thing you can do is walk away. Don't let your momentum become your blindfold. Being awake means being conscious even when you're winning, especially when you're winning. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had a winning streak turn into a disaster because you stopped being conscious? What did it teach you? Let's stay awake in the arena together. I'll see you in the next one.